drift roses down, and they're pretty vicious. They've got some big thorns on them, so you kind of have to be careful. When I was taught how to prune roses, but we're looking at doing a reduction to take out all of this crossing that's happening. We're going to prune the roses, so instead of them growing and kind of being in a ball, we're going to prune them so everything's growing out. We're going to take the nodes, and I'll show you a little closer in a minute. So there's inward nodes and there's outward nodes. We're going to prune just above an outward node because we want the new growth to go out. If you prune right above the inward growing node, when you cut it here, you're creating that ball because everything's going to grow in, and you're going to have a big cluster in the middle, and that's going to stop air circulation. So the way that we're going to prune it is we're going to prune everything with the node on the outside, and we will leave a little stub above. Here, I'll cut a piece of this off. We will leave a stub above. So see here, we've got a node on this side and it's just starting to bud. We've got another one on this side. So if this is the inside of the plant, we don't want to cut here because then this new growth is going to be coming back into the center. We want this outside node to be growing out, and we're going to, a lot of pruning, we will cut really close to the node so that we don't have a stub that dies off. With roses, you leave a stub because you're going to get some dieback. If you were to prune it right here above the node like you would if you were pruning an azalea, a Japanese maple, because you want those clean cuts, it will kill this bud. Also, when you're making these cuts, we're going to angle away from the node. So if there's any condensation or rain, let me make a bad cut on one of these other ones. So if you slant the cut towards the new bud that's emerging, if there's any water that comes off of that, it will run down towards the bud and it will sit here and it will rot this bud. So you make the angle away from where the bud is so that the water sheds away from this bud to protect it. Same with pruning fruit trees, anything. You always make that cut away from that bud. Any questions? Yeah? No? Okay. So far so good. Okay. So far.
And I always thought I was cutting it wrong. When you said, and I always see that little, I cut it wrong, I must not cut close enough to the,
yeah.
And I cut too close to the other one above it. I thought I didn't cut enough off. So I've seen that.
You've seen that bud dying.
I thought I did it, but I did do it wrong, but I did it. I thought I should have cut it shorter, and I really should have cut it longer.
Yeah, so with roses, there's always a little bit of dieback on that stub. So with most other pruning, we don't like to leave that, right. But roses are a difference.
Is that about the only thing you would trim on that? Like as far as the
team, I'll be heading out with ADC in a few moments to help with the
Yeah, so we're going to prune this down to about 1 foot 18 inches. So there's a lot of height. These roses need to be pruned like this every year as well. At this time every year they need to be thinned out because you'll get so much growth on them that you're just going to have this cluster up in the middle. So if you have knockout roses, if you have drift roses, this is what you do at this time of year every year to keep them healthy. These look like they haven't been pruned. They may have never been pruned since they've been planted properly. So we don't really have a whole lot of structure. Once you've pruned them, after about 3 years of consistent pruning, you'll have a skeleton kind of already formed, scaffolding down in the middle that you can cut back to. There will be some times that you'll need to remove some of that scaffolding because you still want new healthy growth in the middle. Sometimes if it gets too old and woody, it just doesn't produce like it used to. So obviously anything that's dead, we cut that off. if you're looking at some of the other roses, like this piece that's dead, we would remove the dead first, and we would remove any of the congestion in the middle. If you're talking about just pruning a maple, anything like that, you always remove the dead wood and crossing, because not only do you have poor air circulation when you've got this cluster in the middle, you've also got these branches rubbing on each other, which takes the outer layer of the stem off, and then you've got chance for disease to get in there. So any rubbing or anything like that you don't want. So you always remove anything that's crossing.
This one, the bottom of it's dead from obviously not being pruned back. Is that something you would always do, is trim underneath the bottom anyway?
Yes, so we're going all the way down to the base. The base here, we're going to clean it all the way out down to the bottom. But yeah, this dieback back here is probably some from lack of light, air circulation. We're going to open this way up so we have a much healthier, happier plant.
Is that something you would normally do on a healthy one, is cut some of the underneath limbs?
Yeah,
just to get airflow.
To get airflow, yes. So, and there's, I should have left it on there and shown you. There was some scale down at the base here. That's another thing that you'll find when you don't have great air circulation. You'll have insect scale in there as well.
Maybe I just don't know what I'm looking for, but I don't think so.
So in here in the crown, we're going to remove some of this. Depending on the plants, like with these roses, you'll actually get some layering happen if you've got too much soil and debris around the base. So where one of these branches, you guys familiar with layering, with the propagation technique layering?
Yes. Yes.
So if one of these limbs touches the ground and you were to cover it in soil or mulch, it will start to layer, it will start to root itself down. So with roses, this isn't quite so important, but we do want to make sure that the crown's cleaned out on all of them. So see all of this debris that's built up around it? This isn't good for the health of the plant if the crown's been planted too deep. And over time with mulching, and sometimes it can happen with erosion as well, this crown will get covered up. And then you'll have disease set in, and there's just isn't enough airflow down here. So we want the base of the rose to look like this, not like this.
So how do you keep your roses looking good? Like in August, they usually get like that fungus thing?
Yeah, so you will have to treat them with some fungicide, just because depending on the orientation of kind of where it's planted, if it's in the shade or if it's not getting enough sun, depending on when you're irrigating as well. If you're irrigating in the afternoon, that will cause fungal problems as well. So
you should do it at night, or should you, or in the morning?
Early morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now I'm going to start making some fairly large cuts, and I'll make some cuts, and then I'll explain what I'm doing.
Remember, you're not master gardener unless you make mistakes. I'll kill something like that.
I knew I needed extra morning sun, immediate, no watering in the afternoon. But the only way I've designed rose beds and everything to the point that I just finally pulled them all up. The only way I ever had really good luck was in a pot on a concrete slab in front of my garage.
Oh,
There
really?
was no disease that could grow. And I had one that I just threw it away this year. It was probably 15 years old. And it was, when I pulled it off, I'd moved it by a sidewalk, and I've got roses coming up. That's how much it is. It had been in there for years, but I had battled The disease is so awful here with the humidity.
Well, when I get home, and do Mary's plant, you're gonna help with that.
Whack. So
Yeah.
we're not gonna have one left. I know you.
No, you're right.
So
They don't play
something like
crazy.
daconil would be good, some kind of copper-based fungicide. But another important thing to know with fungicide is depending on what fungus it is that you're trying to treat, it's actually best to change fungicides out every month. So after every spray, because the fungus will become resilient towards that as well.
So,
It's crossing over a lot of them. I'm going to remove that.
And even that, you don't even know.
Yes, yeah, because there's still going to be some dieback on that. So even like here, I left a nub. I didn't cut it too close. There's a couple of cuts that I made a little close, but try and leave a stub on the end because you will get some dieback on them. And then I'm just going to go through and make sure that I've got a node that's facing out. So this, if I don't cut it back to here, in about 3 or 4 weeks, there will just be all of these buds here will bust out and it will be a cluster up here. So I'm going to remove this back to here so that we've got a bud shooting this way. Remember, we want everything to be growing out. We don't want anything growing up into the middle. We've already got this little dead stub on the side. I'm going to remove that dead wood and then I'm going to take this other piece off as well to have more of a single leader. I'm going to thin a little bit of this end because there's a lot going on. And sometimes you don't always have a good bud to go back to. I'm going to take this piece off. I'm going to try and get this to promote the growth to this bud here.
Oops, sorry. Yeah.
That was I probably cut that a little close there.
There's one right in the middle that's
Oh, I
dead
have.
when
You
just
have?
lay
Not
back.
me.
This one here.
No, that one right above it, right there.
Here. So this looks like it was probably damage from either another branch rubbing on it. See how it's just the outside layer? That may affect the growth on this, but it looks like this is broken already. So I will, and it's broken further down as well. So I'm just going to reduce that all the way. So this is about what we're looking for. I could keep cutting on it all day, but we got a lot more to do. So from this to this is what we're looking for. Anyone want to go for it? You will?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's start with this one here. And you can see how much dead's on this side? That's because it's been shaded out. This other plant was covering it up. This crepe myrtle behind it was covering it up. So it's really not a healthy plant. If it would have been pruned, it wouldn't have had so much growth above it that would shade the interior out. So that's why this one's got so much dead in it.
Does somebody have roses that needs to do this?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Good.
No, I mean, does
I don't
somebody else
have a rose
roses?
bush.
Okay.
We'll criticize you now.
Where's my electric cooker?
Which way you going?
Yeah, let me start on this one here. Let me move some of this out of the way. And we've got plenty to do if more than one person wants to do it.
Do you want to start maybe by getting this underneath
Yeah,
here?
I would take any of the dead out to start with, and anything. Crepe myrtle scale, and we will have to treat these with the dormant oil. But see here, so the black soot is the excrement from the scale. This little insect here is the armored scale. So the insect's actually underneath this hard white shell, and that's what protects it. So we will spray it with a horticultural oil, and that will coat over the top of the armor and suffocate the scale that's underneath it.
So you treat those in the winter with a dormant?
Yep,
like you
with a
would
dormant.
fruit tree?
Yep.
Okay.
So now,
Now,
Yeah.
yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so once again, airflow is key to some of this.
what do you do if you have a tree, a crepe myrtle tree? You can't reach the top?
Yeah, you get a sprayer that sprays. So you can get a battery-powered sprayer that will spray 20 feet high.
Oh, okay.
So, and yeah, you can use a canopy, and then I'm going to be selective on the ends as what we want to stay. I showed you guys over on the other side where the path was, and so we're about a foot over the edge of the path right now, and that's before we even get any new growth. So by the end of, if we don't do any pruning, by this time next year, we'd be out here. So we want to do some reduction on the sides so that we're not engulfing as much of the path. We don't want people to feel like they're being attacked by the plants as they walk around out here. So I was going to leave this one, but where it turns and it goes down, that's not really the look that we want. I want it to kind of come in and go up. So that's why I left this one and took the other. These two aren't as thick as this piece here. They're not quite as long. There isn't as much density to the end. So I'm going to remove the larger and leave these more wispy pieces because it won't be quite so dense and invade the path quite so much. Just like with the roses, we want to remove anything that's dead and anything that's crossing from the interior. So as I'm working through, if there's anything that's going to grow up in the future and cause a problem, I'm just going to remove those pieces. And then as we work from the outside of the center, I'll just do some thinning to create that air movement and to make it a little bit lighter.
It's already prettier. And that's going to also help with the promotion of diseases.
Right, yeah.
With it getting the airflow.
So there's certain trees that you prune not to have a crotch. It's called crotch pruning. So here we've got three leaders at the end. Some plants, and this is mainly in Japanese gardening, but this is called crotch pruning. So you remove the middle and leave the two. This would be for a masculine tree and not a feminine tree. If you're pruning a feminine tree, you go down to one because it doesn't look like legs being open. That's the way they teach you in Japan. So that's the difference between a feminine and a masculine tree when you're pruning it in Japan.
Well, how do you know if it's a masculine or feminine tree?
So a maple's a feminine tree.
Just the cut.
Yeah, the cut.
Yeah, a pine would be a masculine tree.
Well, some of them you have yet for pollination.
You're thinking male and female.
Okay, yeah, I see where you It's more the stature of the tree and how it looks.
Well, you should have said that first.
Please don't show that one. Yeah.
We'll cut that part out.
Yeah, you might cut that part out.
Oh, no.
No, that's the important part.
See?
And Pamela, Pamela, Pamela.
Pamela, I was following you, dear. I knew that. And I was going to ask him to clarify that.
Well, and I did it instead. Oh, it looks a lot better.
So do you guys understand what I was saying about it not being so heavy?
Yeah.
And so with pruning techniques, we rely on that a lot. So when we get to, and this may be in the next month, when we get to pruning like the gardenias and the azaleas, depending on what part of the gardens we're at, we'll prune them differently, so they feel differently. Like here, we would like to do more of a hand reduction on these evergreen shrubs rather than shearing them. If we shear them, they're going to be really tight, really uniformed, really bulky. Whereas if we do a hand reduction, we've got some more airiness to them and they look less formal.
When will you prune the azaleas?
When?
When?
So it depends on what part of the gardens you're in as well. Like in the Japanese garden, we shear the azaleas down there because we want them tight. We're not worried about the blooms, we're more worried about the form of the shrub. We want that structural evergreen bolster of the landscape. We're not so worried about what color flowers they have. We're more worried about the shapes and the way that it looks like mountain ranges that they've been sheared. So with those, they can be sheared at any time, and we're not worried about cutting the blooms off. Obviously, in other parts of the gardens, when you're worried about the blooms, you want to prune them straight after they've bloomed before they start setting buds.
I thought you had to prune them after they bloomed.
You don't have to prune them after they've bloomed, no. You can leave them.
But if you prune it before, you lose the bloom.
Yeah, if you do them right before they're blooming,
Right.
especially if you're shearing them, then you're not going to have any blooms. If you're doing a hand reduction, so I'll show you on these gardenias, but it won't be quite the same. So if you were to shear these before they're blooming, which they're already setting some buds, then you would lose all of those blooms at once. So you would lose that cycle. Now, if you did a hand reduction, you still want to keep some form of shape, but it's okay if it's a little area. You would just kind of reach down in, remove some of these longer pieces.
But you still have some blooms
But
left.
you still have the blooms on the end because you're not taking all of them off, but you're reducing the height, but you're also pushing the cuts down into the shrub so you can't see it. So it doesn't look like it's just been pruned. So this is called a hand reduction technique.
And you can kind of see through it immediately.
Yeah, so we're making it looser. Anytime you shear a shrub, you're making it tighter and tighter. So with this hand reduction technique, it's more of a loose form.
So can I clarify something on
Yeah.
the azaleas then? After they bloom, you do or don't have to cut those blooms off when they're done?
So like with this,
Yeah.
after it bloomed, you don't have to prune it. You just leave it and it will bloom again, but it will be taller.
Oh,
So
I thought we had to cut them off. to
no,
get more.
naturally they'll just keep on blooming.
Oh.
So you will encourage new blooming if you do some removal of the old blooms, just like with the roses.
Okay. But if you're going to really want to reduce the size of your azaleas, you would do that in the fall or the late spring after they bloom, late summer.
Yes,
Okay.
if you want to see the blooms,
All right.
if you're not worried about
Right.
it, and if they're in the way, and you want to do an immediate reduction, you could do it now, but you're going to lose that first set of blooms.
Okay. All right.
I've heard after they bloom, you have about a 4 to 5 week window before they start setting new buds.
Oh.
So that you need to do it pretty quickly after they bloom if you want to save any blooming later. If you go 2 months, 3 months later, you're going to start, some of those beds have already been set. So if you want to try to maximize the number of buds, do it within that 4 or 5 week window.
So what about encore azaleas?
Encore,
So I was just about to say that. So depending on what type of azaleas you've got, with the encores, even down in the Garden of the Pine Wind, we shear those azaleas 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
We still have blooms on them. They were still blooming when we were in,
I have blooms still.
So it depends on weather, but more of the like old-fashioned, like the Karume hybrids, the GG Gerbings, something like that. You're not going to have as many blooms on those as you would with the encores.
You're on.
yeah. With some good fertilizer, I've seen some fill out pretty good. Yeah. So, get
What's
them
next you're
enough
talking
food.
about?
The encore compared to the to me the encores are just like the teas.
They don't
And
just
I would just
flush
soon
out.
have it and get it over with, trim it back.
And
We get more. We just get more
another way that you can do this same technique that I'm doing, if you're looking for it to be quicker, you could shear them with like gas-powered shears and then come in and make those cuts afterwards. So you shear them to about the size that you want, get rid of a lot of this material on the top, then you come in afterwards and remove the pieces that you don't want to be there.
And trimming these as they bloom, as the buds start to kind of wilt, it will also, won't that promote more growth longer through the season?
Yes.
More blooms.
If you're
I'd say with crepe myrtles though, they tend to go so long anyway already. They start snowing about about July and
I really
almost
like
September.
the mid-size. There's one over there, I said, close to a house, you can get structure and a lot of bloom. And it's really a pretty, it's set against the building or wall.
Right. Instead of the tall, you could get the tree height.
Especially with the crepe myrtles, the bark is so unique and such a feature. It's good to be able to see some of that internal scaffolding mixed with the leaves and the blooms. So that's why shearing these and keeping it really tight on the ends just doesn't seem like good practice.
But you would never want to, like the crepe myrtles, any size, like them too early, like, not till like February, middle of February.
Yeah, you could prune these through the season if you needed to.
Not a hard though.
And I'm sure you guys are familiar with the pollarding technique that a lot of people do to the crepe myrtles around here, where they cut the tops off. So that was originally, that technique, between that and coppicing, which is where you flush cut a tree down at the base and you get all this new growth, that was done for basket making, that was done for production. So it's a technique that's good and it has its purpose, but for whatever reason that just got passed down from generation to generation here, where people thought that they needed to pollard the crepe myrtles and create these ugly knees, because then that new growth could be harvested for basket making. So there's no need to do that anymore, and the tree's always trying to get to its full height, so every time you cut it off it just creates a cluster. And when we're looking at the crepe myrtle scale as well, when you have all that new growth that grows out on those knees, it just gives an area for where there's no airflow for that crepe myrtle scale just to exist and just keep on thriving.
And it is willowy.
Yeah.
'Cause years ago I had one that's the house that was a mid-size, and every year I did I cut the top off of it. and it would bloom these beautiful blooms. But anytime the wind, every time we had Easter, it busted all the limbs off.
Yeah,
they
because they're
were
weak.
willows.
Yeah, they're weak. There's so many
Yeah,
of them.
I thought, oh, that's exactly what they are.
And they,
Yeah, and sometimes it's bad design as well. Like people plant crepe myrtles right up next to their house, and they're growing up into the roof and knocking on the gutters and stuff. It was the wrong tree for the place. So you're just creating a maintenance issue when you do something like that.
and also their heads get so heavy, those blooms, they want to, bend over. Yeah. Honestly, once you do that to a crepe myrtle, to me, it's done. I mean, you can't. It's almost like you can't fix it. I mean, it's fixable, but it's a long, long road, and most people don't have the patience for it.
When do you fertilize them?
Yeah, so most fertilization, I would do the first round between now and March. So in the dormant season, getting the soil ready, feeding the soil as well as feeding the plants. So then once you get that new growth, so with fertilization, if you fertilize at the end of summer, fall, sometimes you're encouraging new growth that can get zapped if we have an early frost. So you just want to make sure that it's when the plant can use it and it's beneficial. Yeah, you may want to wait a little bit longer because like we've seen with the roses, like they're already, like these ones here, they're already this new red growth on the end, they're budding out. With this warm weather, if you fertilize them now, they would get really excited. So wait another 4 weeks if you can.
Next month is going to be very busy.
Yeah.
Every month is busy. Yeah, but it's like, I mean, all the trimming, it's kind of like February, March. I work a couple more hours.
Do you need a ride back up there? Or are you supposed to? I can give you a lift back up.
Oh, okay.
Back here, thanks for coming.
All right.
Good luck with your moving. If you need some help, call all of us. We'll be right there.
Yeah, see you later, homeless.
I like these size of that, the mid size, because you can see so much. The big ones are pretty for a driveway or a way out in the open, but these are more visually appealing around, just out in your lawn.
Yeah.
Because you can really see the bark and blends up close.
Yeah, and so there's a little more thinning that I need to do here, and there's some cleanup kind of on the ends to do, but that gives you an idea of just how it went from being so clustered to just opening it up, but also there's still a little reduction needs to be done on the sides and the top, but we don't want it to look obvious. We want it to look like that's just how it grew. We don't want to see a lot of cuts right on the end.
I must cut it like a willow bush will do, like around the creeks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of grow more, like you said, airier like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty.